Enter OnePlus. This company has some different ideas about value. Yeah, you remember this from earlier this year? Well, the winds of change, they're a-blowing. There's a storm brewing, and it's putting quite a bit of wind into the sales of flagships.
Thank you, Commodore, for getting us ready to make way.
No, not that kind. Flagships of the smartphone variety. Top of the line, top spec communications devices which have become our lifeline to everything from commerce to connection to cartoons, and up until now, you think you'd have to pay a king's ransom to get all of that. I mean, considering some of the pricing lately, many of you have. Not today though. What if I told you you didn't have to pay as much as you'd pay for a laptop to buy a beast of a phone? This is the OnePlus 8 Pro. I've lived with it for a week and I have a lot to say. TLDR, this is the phone your mama warned you about because it's probably gonna steal your heart. Hey, if any of the videos on this channel help you, please hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll get the latest information and videos when we upload them. When that special someone catches your eye from across the room, the first thing you notice isn't generally their intellect or personality. It's their physical appearance. They catch your eye and you want to know more. The OnePlus 8 Pro does that with its eye-catching colors. I'm reviewing the Glacial Green variant. This is the entry-level Pro model with 8 gigabytes of fast LPDDR5 RAM and the new UFS 3.0 storage, 128 gigabytes of it. Think of that like adding or updating your laptop from an old spinning hard drive to the faster solid state drives. They're so fast, it makes your old device feel new again. This is part of the reviewer's kit of everything that OnePlus sent, and I have to say I'm really impressed with quite a few of these products. The Sandstone case, I got one of these with the OnePlus 8 and with the Pro, and I really love the gritty texture on that. It really gives you extra grip, feel like it's not gonna slip out of your hand with either phone. You get the Warp charger, the Warp 30T charger with the OnePlus 8 Pro, and they also sent me their Warp 30T wireless charger. Dog hair, yes, I have a dog. You also get this Warp 30T charger, and it has a fan built into it, so it's gonna keep everything nice and cool. Great product. I've actually charged the OnePlus 8 Pro and some other devices on it. You get this in the box when you buy it in retail. This is the clear case, comes with it in the box again. No screen protector built in, or pre-installed rather, but that's inside stuff. Let's get back to those looks. The right side of the phone is where you'll find the power button, which can also be used as your voice assistant button if you like. I prefer power. Above that is the feature I gush about every time, the alert slider. Every Android manufacturer should be doing this. On the left side is the volume rocker. Bottom of the phone, you get the USB-C port, a microphone, half of the stereo speakers, and dual nano SIM tray, no expandable storage. Top of the phone, you'll find another microphone. Skirting the top edge of the front of the phone is the second half of the stereo pair, and just to the left of that is the hole punch camera. Around that hole punch is the vibrant 6.55-inch viewable display, which is capable of resolutions up to QHD+. That's 1368 by 1440. And you get the ability to view the display at 120 Hertz, even at its highest resolution, which is something you won't get in some of its competitors. You will take a hit to the battery for that display decision, should you choose it, but we'll talk battery life in a moment. This is one of the best displays on the market right now. To my eyes, there aren't any others at this size and price point which match it. If you're going to have to jump a couple $100s or more for competition, and those competitors aren't actually better, but just comparable. Below the display is the fingerprint scanner, which I'd call best in class on the Android. It's the one to beat. Unlocks are fast, and I don't feel like the target is so tight that I'm having to be exacting with finger placement to unlock successfully. Now, I don't generally get too much into the weeds for internals, but this phone also sports Qualcomm's top-of-the-line Snapdragon 865 processor with the X55 5G modem and the Adreno 650 graphics processor. What does all of that even mean? Well, you're getting a relatively future-proof flagship phone. I say relatively because of what Qualcomm's next 5G modem is purported to be able to do with all these 5G bands being different across carriers, but that's a whole 5G lesson for another video. And since we're talking internals, one internal in particular has a big effect on experience, and we're going to talk about that next, the battery. With everything on maximum, meaning my screen brightness, auto adapt off, with the slider set to maximum, the refresh rate set to 120 Hertz, and the resolution, the screen resolution at QHD+, I went 27 hours with almost 6.5 hours screen on time and still had 11% left. For context, I don't talk much on the phone, so your mileage may vary, but this 4,510 milliamp hour battery is highly capable of getting you through your days. And to pile on and really abuse this battery, I kept it off of my Wi-Fi for the most part, only allowing it to connect to 5G. Now, since I'm in California and at the time of this review, I'm observing the stay-at-home orders from our governor, I haven't traveled much, but I'm in a fringe 5G area, so that battery life is actually exceptional. For example, in my living room, I get 5G connectivity, but at the back of my home, in the bathroom, my status bar shows LTE+. This is all on T-Mobile's Sub-6 network. And the speeds have actually been really good as well. In my living room, I'm getting 25 megabits per second, again, in fringe coverage. But in Santa Monica, when I stopped at a Best Buy the other day, I used Ookla to run a speed test and got cable modem download and upload speeds coming in at 142 down with 33 up. Something you need to know is that you will see better battery life than what I'm getting if you set the screen to a lower resolution and 60 Hertz. If you're a battery hog, my advice is to set the screen to that lower resolution and keep the refresh rate at 120 Hertz. That will give you the best of both worlds, solid battery life and a beautiful navigation experience and display. And with battery life out of the way, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Those cameras. I usually run down camera spec in the hardware portion of my review, but we're gonna do it here as I discuss experience. Why? Because OnePlus went through the trouble to give us a Pro model with quad cameras, so we're gonna dig into that and see if it competes with other flagships which cost more. Let me answer that question. Yes. Here I am at a world famous icon, Randy's Donuts. If you blow it up and pixel peep a bit, you'll notice the texture in the giant donut. As you can see in this early morning set, colors are vibrant and images are sharp. Ultra wide, wide, and telephoto. You cannot tell me that isn't some sexy lens flare. And a feature we saw on the 7T, Super Macro Mode, does a fantastic job of capturing detail with the 48 megapixel shooter, as you can see in this photo of my work iPhone on an unfinished Pine desk. I'll zoom in and blow up the image a bit. Notice the detail in the texture of the wood grain and in the grip texture on the side of the OtterBox phone case. But how about those low light night mode shots? As you can see here, images are sharp and crisp. My dog was in motion, but the camera still caught her with relative sharpness. The background details which weren't in motion are nice and sharp, even blown up. Even the dog is pretty sharp when the image is blown up. And here we have my usual night mode test shots, the Metro stop and dilapidated sign. Colors are solid, as is contrast, and both the main camera and the ultra wide angle lens captured respectable images. You can go pixel peeping and find the flaws, but they're no different than any other camera on the market right now, even though the extent to which those flaws are expressed are going to be greater or lesser to varying degrees. So that's 3 of the 4 cameras, but what about that color filter camera? Best way to think of this is as a hardware version of an Instagram filter. What's different on this camera than the OnePlus 8 is the photochrome mode filter. You can't really control the output of this filter, but it does net some interesting results. It mimics an old film processing technique which adds color to black and white photos. The color it adds back to photos are really dependent on the items in the photos, but it tends to favor restoring, or rather replacing, colors with this kind of eerie grayscale or sepia and copper tones. This photochrome feature actually comes with some controversy. It uses infrared technology which imbues it with the ability to see through certain materials. People online are saying this could be a major issue for OnePlus, but I tried this at home and only could get the X-ray pictures with a couple items around the house. It was definitely finicky with clothing. And according to a OnePlus spokesperson, as you can see here on the site, they're disabling the functionality on Hydrogen OS, which is their OS that they use in China, but their global OS, Oxygen OS, which we have here in the States, they're not going to disable the feature, but instead opting to push an OTA update in the future, which will disable some of the functionality of the photochrome feature. Now, one issue I did find irksome was gesture navigation. If you're going to get rid of the traditional navigation, having a case with a cutout at the bottom is the best way to go, since you're going to find yourself swiping up from the bottom of the screen frequently. Well, that isn't the case that comes in the box, but I found out that by turning on the feature which hides the nav bar, the bottom of the screen became more sensitive to my swipes, and the problem solved. It still isn't 100%, but it's a lot better than it was before. And hide navbar is just one of quite a few customizations you'll find in Oxygen OS. I've gone through just how customizable it is in my OnePlus 7T and 8 reviews, and I really do enjoy this OS and lack of bloat. Love Zen mode, and the only thing I don't care for in this iteration of Oxygen OS is the fact that they removed the shelf home screen, because I really did like the parking feature. One menu option, which has become more important to me in recent weeks, is the parallel apps section. I was recently banned from going live on Facebook for 30 days for a false positive community violation. It was a video meme of Hitler ranting, taken from a movie and redubbed with him ranting about something like iPhone versus Androids. The post was from last year, but it just now got me in trouble. Very random. But with parallel apps, I can be logged into 2 different Facebook accounts simultaneously. With Facebook not necessarily known for having an even-handed approach to these kinds of things, it's probably worth it for you to check this out if you engage in discussions on the platform, which might be controversial. In the end, there really is so much to like about the OnePlus 8 Pro. But what helps it stand out in the flagship race is price. For a similarly spec'd device in both the Android and iOS spaces, you can pay hundreds more. But do you really need to? This year's crop of flagships calls that into question, and the OnePlus 8 Pro answers with a resounding no. OnePlus definitely has a solid hitter on their hands, or better yet, in your hands with this device, as it is definitely worth it. And if you're someone who's looking at this phone and the standard OnePlus 8, if you have the budget, I'd recommend going with this one. If you're going to pay near that amount, I'd pay the extra and get the wireless charging and larger screen, unless you're able to get the OnePlus 8 on one of those half-off deals that I've seen. So I'm Tashaka Armstrong. This is Reviews.org. Thank you for watching. And if you want to figure out which carrier is the best one for you to pick up this OnePlus 8 Pro, which one has the best deals, we have all that information and more on the website, Reviews.org. Check it out. Our researchers have put a ton of information up there for you. I know you'll find it useful. Again, that's Reviews.org. I'm Tashaka Armstrong. Thank you for watching.